Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Handmaid's Tale, Season 2, Episode 6. It's called First Blood. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. And apologies, this is a day later than normal. Blame Connor, basically, is the short explanation, but we will move on swiftly. I have to say, the title of this one made me worried.
Okay, I get you. Right.
First Blood. Especially since I thought, wasn't last week technically First Blood? What blood's now? Like, come on, too much blood. This show tends to have me worried though. So obviously we'll dive into the. I feel like because the first few episodes had almost none of Serena Joy and the Commander, we're really sort of diving into where they're at this season and
making up for lost time.
Pretty much. Also, the discovery of a bed sheet with a glory hole built into it, which baffled my mind. I'd never seen that in my life.
I think that's a new thing.
But to be conservative while having sex, is that the point of the glory hole in the bed sheet?
Maybe, yeah. I don't know.
Just go to a bathroom, find one if that's what you're going to do.
Yeah, well, it does seem easier.
Well, let's start off on that subject, and let's start off in Nick and his wife, Eden, because some interesting stuff came from this that I thought was pretty dynamic in terms of like just all the mixing of emotions that was going on throughout, where Nick tries to go to June and talk to her, and basically proclaim love. At one point, he does say he loves her, which is not met with much of a response, and she's like, "Well, you should talk to your wife," is basically her response, and it's kind of awkward, and he's like, I had no choice in that, and she's like, no, I know, but we can't keep sneaking around, it's like too risky. And then later on, Eden comes and speaks to June, she's wanting advice, and obviously every time they're in the room together it's awkward as shit. She'll say like, praise be, blessed be thy fruit, whatever. There's
always like really like just awkward pauses between the praise be under his eye, and then whatever the responses of whatever the applicable response for that one is, there's always a really awkward pause.
So that's always sort of lingering, and eventually she comes to him and she's like, "Oh, you went out again last night," and and she's at first she's like really concerned. She feels rejected, like, "Oh, I'm ugly, he doesn't want me." June like assures her that's not the case, and then she just jumps to, "Oh, what if he's a gender betrayer?" I think was the phrase she used, or a gender traitor. Yeah, traitor. That was what it was. And of course, June's like then worried because, oh shit, if she says that to someone, like, that does not seem like a state that are going to take innocent until proven guilty as a mantra. No,
not at all. That's it. He's on the wall.
Yeah, straight to the noose, basically. And apparently the plural of noose is niece, as someone in the comments pointed out after we were questioning that. I think that sounds weird to me. It sounds. I mean, it's spelled differently, of course, but it sounds like you're talking about your niece if you're an uncle or an auntie.
It does. But I mean, I guess it makes sense. You have goose becomes geese, so noose becomes niece. I get it, but I don't like it.
You say that as if every rule in the English language actually is consistent.
Oh, none of them are. That's the beauty of the English language. It's a mess.
Yeah, we're at a point now where they're not allowed to teach I before E unless after C, because there's actually more examples of that not being the case than that being the case.
Yeah.
It's been outlawed.
Yeah, it's a stupid rule.
Because the English language is full of nonsense. So, and somehow we just all soldier on. Barely, but we do. So obviously this is an interesting dynamic, and it gets to this point where June says to Nick, "Hey, you better go through with this." So she's starting to get suspicious that you're you're going to end up in the wall, and he a quite normal healthy response from him is, she's 15. He doesn't feel very comfortable. In fact, we even see that dinner scene where they're sitting having dinner together, and she keeps saying, "Oh, did you like the food? I can change it." And he's just he's trying to be nice, and, "Oh, that's great, that's fine, thanks." And he goes to get his plate at one point, and she's like, "No, that's my job, silly." And so it's very super brainwashed, early age. Like, this is your role.
She's like I said last week. She's proper into all of this. She's been indoctrinated fully.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced that she completely believes it all, or if she's just doing everything she's supposed to do and say. Does that make sense?
I think she does believe it, because I don't think she comes to June and says that she's thinking he might be a gender traitor.
Okay, I'll give you that.
She doesn't believe in it.
That is the one bit of evidence that actually makes me think she does actually believe all this crap.
Yeah.
Because everything else up until that point, I'm like, no, she believes she's supposed to do this or she'll get into trouble.
Right, all the rest of it you can write off as an act if you want to. But that it doesn't track for me.
Yeah. Although I kind of read it as her being naive, and like she believes it to an extent, but she's not really grown old enough and really thought about it enough to actually have her own
I think she believes it right now because she doesn't know any better. She hasn't seen the horror. You know, she's been very isolated growing up separate. You know.
Oh, clearly, yeah.
At home, she's not really been part of this world in a larger sense, so she doesn't really understand the horror of it.
And Jin's response to this, you know, when he says, "Oh, she's 15," and she turns around and says, "Oh, you don't want to screw someone you don't want to," and I'm like, "Damn, Jin, that was like real and so like true." And don't get me wrong, like you sympathise with Nick because, of course, the one difference here being that he doesn't want to do this because he sees it as inappropriate, whereas, you know, June and all the other handmaids are just they're the ones who are physically assaulted.
One is clearly worse than the other.
But like, obviously, you sympathise with his opinion. Of course, you do. Like, any normal person would. But she kind of has a point.
She definitely does.
Like,
suck it up, basically.
Yeah, suck it up and do it. How many times have I had to have sex with, you know, Commander Waterford? Like, you're going to have to just do it. Suck it up and do it. And it really made me... I was thinking about this, actually, during the episode. I was like, how do they show this when it happens? Because it doesn't matter what the plot is. At the end of the day, this is an actor who's, like, 30? With an actress who... I mean, she may be a couple of years older than she actually is portraying here, but it's going to feel uncomfortable no matter what they do.
Yeah.
Like... because I was like, they can't show a kiss.
Not that this show has ever shied away from being uncomfortable.
Oh no, but I think that there's a line here that you don't go over, even in this show, where you don't show like someone grown kissing someone who's like underage.
No, fair enough.
You know, I think that's like a line that wasn't, and I think that's notable. The reason why I say that, because I think they avoided a kiss. They did this thing where it's really uncomfortable. Don't get me wrong. The glory hole sex scene was, you know,
something
chilling.
Else entirely, yeah.
Yeah, it was awkward, it was uncomfortable, and nothing more romantic than finishing, rolling over, and her saying, "I think it worked, and if it didn't, we'll keep trying." I think it worked.
Yeah.
3 seconds later. So I mean, yeah, the whole thing, like, it was a fascinating thing where, like, June's response, June's saying, "Oh, you don't want to screw someone, you don't have to." Or you don't want to do it, but you have to. Like, that was such a good sort of like wrench in like the way I was thinking about this plotline. Like, up until now, it was like, oh no, this is awful for Nick. He has to go through this, and it's like, oh, she's kind of right. Like, she has more of a point here than I could have really predicted, and it's a testament to how complex the layers of the drama are in this show, where. Oh shit, yeah, now we're like, everyone's in these positions where they have like no good choices. They have choices to a point, but they're all terrible. And more often than not, one of them will lead to assassination or execution of some kind.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. The choice here is sleep with the underage girl or be executed.
Now, of course, my logical brain's thinking, well, Nick, just stop her from worrying, sit her down and say, hey, you know, I remember a time before this, and I don't think it's appropriate until you're, you know, X age.
I think that gets him in trouble either way.
It probably will. I'm just saying, you think he would try and talk to her about it, but of course he's equally uncomfortable and doesn't know what to say. You know, he's very.
Even that, I think, you know, if she reports that he said that, I think he could get in trouble because you know that whole thing is okay. We're not having enough kids, and he's you know, this is time where she's fertile that he's wasting as far as the state is concerned.
Yeah.
So get to work, essentially, is what they're saying. So I think he gets in just as much trouble.
If she reports him.
But he obviously can't risk that because she seems very devout to him. Yeah. Everything she says to him, he has no reason to assume she won't, you know, report him.
Maybe instead of pushing off to a certain age, though, like, even just sitting down and saying, hey, we got married like 2 days ago, right? Right, you clearly haven't done this before. Out of respect to you feeling comfortable, why don't we wait like a week? And just, you know, get comfortable with each other. So maybe that conversation could have worked.
Maybe. I think she's a bit, again, I think she's very eager, right? She's constantly like, hey, let's do this.
I think she's equally eager and terrified, though. She does not look comfortable and excited at all.
No. no, that's fair. But I think again, she is like, no, this is what we do. Let's do it.
I think you're painting her in a different light than she is. I think you're painting her as a lot more. Like I feel like ego's the wrong word because, again, I see it coming more of a place from fear in the society around her.
She doesn't seem that afraid to me.
Oh, I disagree. I think she's terrified.
I mean, I think she's terrified of like Serena Joy. Don't get me wrong, and the commander, and
Of course, everyone's terrified of Serena Joy.
Right? No, she's terrified of the people with the power who she's not really experienced before. She doesn't know how to talk to them. I think she's afraid of the situation of being wrong, but I don't think she's that afraid of where she is. I don't think she going back to her being naive. I don't think she understands enough to be afraid yet.
I don't know. It's just, I'm not getting this just outright eagerness from her because to me, every time she's in a scene, even whether it's with Nick, whether it's June, whether it's with Serena Joy, it doesn't matter who it is. There is this uncomfortable expectation where she knows she's supposed to do something, and she's accepted she's going to do it, but it doesn't feel like she's like when she's worried that he's not doing something. It's because she's been trained to expect that to happen, rather than because she's excited about the prospect of it itself.
Right. But I mean, she's the one always pushing it. She doesn't seem like she's afraid to have it happen. She's always like, "Hey, let's do this." It's like we're supposed to be doing. It's eager to fulfill the expectations rather than like excited. But I think she's eager to be doing what she thinks she's supposed to be.
But again, I just think that's out of like a general fear, and not in a fear like she's just immediately already scared of what's going to happen, but more in that this is because I think the difference between her and Nick. Outside of everything else he does, is that he comes from a world before this time. He remembers everything else, where she clearly is, at least at a young enough age, was already in this world, and it was like, no, now you're trained for this thing. She has such tunnel vision in what's expected of her, which is what the society wants. It's what they want everyone to see themselves as just this thing, and that's all you can be. And I don't know. So I get that feeling from it that she's. I don't know. I don't know. I think she could be devout and get more devout as we go, out of fear. But I think they'll. It'll be interesting to see where they go with her.
I am intrigued to see how it plays in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely, as far as adding characters to the mix goes, this is definitely an interesting one to put us with. Is someone this young and someone theoretically innocent.
It's not just a fresh set of eyes in terms of a new character perspective. New characters. It's because it's just. We've not had someone of this age, someone who this is relatively new to, someone who doesn't necessarily know how it was before as an adult at least.
Plus, on top of that, it's kind of like how when we met the family that June interacted with, is that up until then we hadn't really even encountered anyone who wasn't either a handmaid in terms of the women of the world. We hadn't encountered anyone who wasn't a handmaid, a Martha, or a commander's wife, right?
Mm. Yeah, I don't think so.
Because we had a lot of questions in season 1 about, okay, what about all the other people that weren't seen as criminals, so they weren't handmaids.
We just had the people who were in the system, like the aunts and
the aunts, of course. Yeah, that's the one I left out.
But aunts, handmaids, Marthas, they're all in the system.
And this is someone who isn't. This Eden is
as close as they can get to free, I guess.
Yeah, until of course she does something she's not supposed to. Or
I say that she's still. I assume in this society belongs to Nick. I assume that's how.
Given how this society functions, absolutely.
Right, but not quite as literally as the case of the name, right? She isn't of Nick.
No, she's not. She's still Eden.
Right.
She's Mrs. Whatever Nick's last name.
I have no idea.
Blaine. So Mrs. Blaine.
She has a bit more freedom comparatively.
Yeah, but again, it's almost very. Like a phantom freedom. Shouldn't really, but it's presented as such. But
I could see an argument that she has more freedom than Serena Joy, though. Because as much as Serena has the more power, she is very much just as much a slave to her position, right? She has all these expectations of her as well, and she is more publicly scrutinized, I guess. The expectations for her as a commander's wife are higher than just as a regular wife.
Yeah, sure, I guess.
I feel like I don't know. She can get away with a bit. She can get away with even less because there's more people watching her.
if I hadn't seen her operate the way she has, I might agree with that. I don't know if I do. I feel like the freedom's probably about the same, but you're right, she has way more power. She certainly has more avenues open to like do things she's not supposed to. But it's, it also answers questions we had. Like, cause I think in season 1 we were talking about, how did they get married, and we never talked about this last week. But okay, now we know. Now it's like arranged. They're giving to each other. So, that's the depressing answer to that. So anyway, where to go next? So let's talk about flashbacks then.
Yeah, why not?
Serena Joy, we get a flashback. She gets some flashbacks this episode, taking her back to when she was touring with her book, The Woman's Place, or A Woman's Place, and we see, and this is probably one of the most kind of true to the time sequences we've had, I think, because it was directly addressing the idea that everyone, she goes out to this angry crowd, and they're shouting, fascist and much harsher words than that.
A Nazi C.
Yes, that was the one that stuck out.
The one that I'm not allowed to say on YouTube anymore.
Yeah, but there was lots of flipping off. There was lots of just angry protests, and then you had your alt-right people kind of spread around, looking quite pleased about the whole thing. So that definitely felt like it was a lot more in tune to things we talk about right now. Closest we've ever got, I think. Now, obviously, all this issues we talk about are all things that are happening, but this just feels really topical in terms of the last year or so. And I thought it was handled pretty well, actually. It was kind of interesting seeing it from her perspective. This is almost like a horror scene of like being attacked and then almost assassinated.
It is. She doesn't understand why they're being this vicious to her.
Yeah, and what really got me, the dark irony of the scene though, is both the sort of the lecturer, or maybe her campaign manager, whoever it was, who was like sort of talking to her, and then at one point either her or the commander said this as well, but they said, "Oh, this is ridiculous. We should be allowed to speak our opinion. This is America." And of course, the dark irony is that they're going to take that away.
Yes.
No one can do that anymore. They are using the freedoms to get their ideology out there, and then they're going to take all the freedoms away.
It's funny because we spoke a lot last season about how Serena was complicit in creating this world, and has some regret about that, obviously. In some ways,
I think that's still true in this episode. There's a lot of
there is. I don't think or at least I don't think she ever meant for it to get as far as it did, in the sense of. No, I think she still expected people to be able to have opinions, right?
Very possibly. I think that's something we'll get more of as we get more flashbacks with her and see kind of, what specifically she was aiming for. The way you phrased that there, it makes me think of like she essentially wrote this Bible, and then other people took it and kind of like got what they wanted out of it. They corrupted it. And,
pretty much, yeah.
I can totally see that comparison. And once they actually come in power, we see that Fred goes off and murders whoever tried to kill her. Well, actually, he murders his wife and lets him live so that he can live in the pain of watching his wife die.
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's probably the actual most outright violent we've seen him be. We've never seen him actually outright execute someone before.
He's been very refined usually. Yeah. He's very much he presents this the upper class man, right?
Yeah. And obviously the title of First Blood arguably references her being shot. It also references what happens at the end of the episode, I think, in the opposite side. Like, this is the Resistance's First Blood. I don't know if it actually is, but it feels in the show it feels that way.
I think you can obviously go to Nick and Eden's first encounter.
Oh, you're going there. All right.
I'm just saying. It's got a lot of meanings. There's a lot of uses for the title this week. Take your pick.
Oh my god!
That one
is that what the porn parody of First Blood is? It's taking someone's virginity.
Oh, I kind of hope so.
I don't know what Rambo First Blood Part 2 a porn parody is, but
I think I know.
That was an anal sex joke for anyone not following at home. And that's why they changed the title in the third one to just Rambo 3, because, well...
Yeah, we ran out.
What are you going to screw after that? The ear? I mean, anyway.
Wasn't expecting to make those jokes when we started this.
No, I wasn't either. But geez, even Handmaid's Tale can send us down the comedy path at times.
Yeah.
So where was it? Oh yeah, flashback. Serena Joy. Yeah, so Serena Joy in the present day stuff. Obviously, she has this odd guilt in the first half of the episode, and I know her too well at this point to actually take this as sincere.
Yeah.
Of course, I think she is genuinely guilty, but I think she's more guilty of, you know how like Lydia was telling her, hey, you have to have a nice atmosphere in the house, and I think she feels guilty that she is responsible for what almost happened to the baby, not because she's she's guilty about June.
No, of course not.
She hates June, but she's guilty about what happened to the baby, and
I think it's a very selfish guilty as well. You know, like when you feel guilty and you there's that you feel a bit sick to your stomach sort of feeling. I get the sense that when she's doing this and to make up for it, it's not to like publicly apologize. It's just so that feeling goes away for her, so that she's just not bothered by it anymore.
Joe, it's funny actually. This kind of like apology is brought up this week on this week's Supergirl, which I know you've not watched it, but it's just interesting that idea of like I'm only apologizing because it'll make me feel better is actually something that comes up.
Oh, fair enough. I'll get to that.
I didn't think there'd be a correlation between Handmaid's Tale and Supergirl this week, but somehow we found one.
I mean, I expect that more than the anal sex jokes, I'll be honest.
You've not watched the episode yet. You can look forward to that. John Jones has a nasty surprise. So she's feeling guilty, and she all of a sudden, and we kind of got a glimpse of this last season. Remember when she was late, like June was late that one episode, and it was like, oh, you sit and you'll be weighted on hand and foot.
She's been really nice.
Yeah, and even this episode, like Rita brings in soup at one point, and she's like, I'm sorry you have to like run around after me like this, and she's like, well, enjoy it while you can, because this is temporary, and that's really interesting. In fact, that was a really funny scene because Nick's like, "Oh, yeah, that smells nice. Where's mine?" He's like, "Speak to your wife," and she walks out. Rita's got a mouth. When Rita can get away with being catty, she'll do it. But that was a front line. But there's all these little moments that really, because obviously there's a lot of June early on, like whenever Serena Joy like talks about her baby or taking care of the baby, like the acting again was phenomenal. Like Moss, like just those little mannerisms, those little reactions to all the little things that are said.
I think it's the stare that she's got. It's like a really blank stare. Yeah, and then just a reaction will just kind of sneak out of it for every so often. Yeah,
and it's always like when someone refers to the baby as not hers or whatever. And there's a couple of times when she openly talks about like, because at one point the gynecologist kind of like wheels around and says, "Hey, like, was there any complications in your first pregnancy?" And that's really awkward because you can see Serena Joy gets really awkward, and that's why Serena Joy like, "Hey, do you want to see the the sonogram?" And she opens the divider, which of course, I mean, obviously you have like these for some things, but I think it's very important that in this society there's a giant divider so that it's between the mother and the gynecologist. The actual handmaid, she's just behind this wall. Yeah. She's not important.
Oh, of course, it is really just segregating them from their
vagina,
from the process as much as possible.
She's segregated from her own vagina. That is basically what's happening in this scene. But no, there's all these great little moments, and she's trying to be really nice, and we see her on her own, like, and you get the sense of the regret of like what she's done to society, where it really came in for me. Obviously, there's the scene where she comes in and she's knitting, she's having June sleep in the couch downstairs. Now, you can't claim those stairs in your condition. And that's it's a very interesting scene because they're almost having like an actual conversation. And this is where I'm like, you can't trick me, show. I know what she's like. I'm not accepting this. But it was a very genuine conversation to the point where June offers, "Hey, do you want to feel the baby?" And compare that to the scene from a couple of weeks ago when she snuck in at night and had a feel.
Yeah.
Completely different. And of course, she wakes up at one point and she goes and speaks to the commander, who's having a snack.
As you do. I can relate.
Sitting with a full loaf of bread and just cutting slices and adding on cheese to each one by one.
I'm not gonna lie, I've been there.
I've done it as well. I've done it as well.
Once or twice in my life, I may have demolished an entire loaf of bread. What are you gonna do?
This is basically a joke that men don't know how to cook, so we just sit there with the two main things and just shove them in our mouth at the same time.
That I actually do all the cooking in my home.
You're just too lazy sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes I just want a loaf of bread and butter. It's pretty good.
He was rocking some cheese though, so you can't fault it. And June kind of gets a little bit close to him and says, "Hey, like, are you mad at me? We've not spoken much since I got back." And I think it's interesting for me how he kind of ping pongs between him and Serena this episode, because after this he goes to Serena when she's out in the garden at one point in her little greenhouse, and kind of tries to like open up to her and get her to open up back to him, and she's kind of cold. She kind of like pushes him away, and then almost immediately, this is after, of course, the big scene where June asks for to meet Hannah again. She's like, "Hey, can I see her just once, just to know she's okay?" Because and this is at a moment where Serena's showing off the new nursery, and her complete demeanor changes. Because at this point, like, because I think from June's perspective, and I think from our perspective as the audience, we're like, look, give her this one thing. She's done so. You've forced her into this society. You're doing so much. But from Serena's point of view, it's like, oh no, I was being nice to her, and she just wants more things. How dare she ask for something else like that? But she pushes the commander back, and I think it's interesting that he ping pongs. Like, he has that scene with June in the kitchen. It's kind of awkward. He kind of tries to be nice, and it's kind of weird, and she kind of pushes him off. He goes to his wife, and then she pushes him off, and that's what bounces him back over to June, and he's got the photo. Because he knows what she wants, so he's brought a photo of Hannah, and her, June's reaction to the photo was like phenomenal. It was, she was crying, she's like, and then it goes from being sweet to being a little creepy as he puts his hand on the stomach to feel the baby, and then his hand slides up onto her breast, and it's like, okay, that was literally a slider of creepiness. It was just like, zoop. All right, we're in creepy territory now.
And it's like, oh, the whole thing's a move.
And she has to play along to a point. Ultimately, she gets him away by saying, "Hey, I'm worried it could harm the baby," and that sells him on it, and he leaves. But the whole thing just you feel icky. Like, not that you've not felt icky before whenever he's made his moves on her, but this especially felt icky.
It did. I think the difference is before, when we had it was either the specific time of the month, the ritual, right, where that was the worst. But then the other times there was actually some sort of a relationship forming. They were having conversations, right?
It still felt like she would never be a part of that conversation if she wasn't coerced into it, but yeah.
Oh, of course, but at least there was a pretense of it.
Sure, yeah, it was a pretense, yeah.
Whereas here, it's just like, hey, 20 seconds, here's my attempt, all right, now I'm going for it.
Yeah. And add on to the fact that he literally just bounced back and forth between the two of them. Oh no, I've got my wife. Oh, my wife rejected me. Okay, back to the Handmaid.
Yeah, it's like, I guess she'll do.
Yeah, it feels very, very slimy. On top of everything else that it feels with him and June and everything else. So all that stuff was again, it was great for the little reactions. It was great for the June playing off of every character. Nick's confliction was very good. Eden as well. All that stuff was gold. But here's probably my favourite scene when it comes to the regret. I was getting to this earlier, but I kind of went sidetracked. It's when she's still being nice to June, and she invites her friends. Not that they're allowed friends, but she invites her friends round, the other handmaids, including Offglen, which they did remind us. She can't speak. She got her tongue cut out, and June comes in. It's kind of awkward. She sits down, and Serena's serving them. She's giving them pie, and she's pouring tea, and
obviously no one's saying anything except the bare minimum.
Well, no, that's what really cracked me up. It's like, hey, chat, catch up, and then the first thing they say is, "We've been blessed with kind weather," and I'm like, they don't really have friends because they're not allowed to talk about anything. Like, this is like.
Do you know what I loved about this though? Is so they do that, and Serena's like, no, talk like you do on your walks. Like all the wives, all the rest of them, they know that they are friends. They know that they talk when they're alone. They just turn a blind eye to it. They kind of let them have that.
This is the extreme version of like when you're in class and there was that one day where the teacher said, "You know what, it's okay, you can talk today," and then everyone goes quiet because no one knows what to say because the teacher said it's okay.
Yeah.
That is kind of what this is.
I don't know what that's like.
Yeah, well, you never had that?
No. That's weird.
Well, I went to a nice reasonable school. I'm sorry.
Well, what's the benefit to that? Other than than them going, well, this will shut them up.
It's just in days where, like, it's getting towards the end of term, work wasn't as important, we're wrapping up for the year.
Okay.
You ever had a slow period where, okay, this is just kind of an extra period, don't really need this one for anything?
Yeah, but I don't think we ever had a teacher acknowledge that, you can just talk.
Oh, I'm sorry, you had robotic teachers who never had like a shred of human decency in them, but...
I mean, they'll let you get away with it if you talk. They don't just stop you, unless you get like loud or going way too long. Yeah, but they never like acknowledge it.
Well, I'm sorry. That just is a sign of an inhumane person to me.
Well, maybe. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I'd be bragging about my teachers in this episode, but apparently, you know.
I didn't realize this was something that my teachers fell down on.
Maybe my teachers were the weird ones. I don't know. I don't think so. It felt like a normal thing to do at the time. But hey,
I think this is the problem. You kind of got to one school for however long. You don't really have the context to compare it with another set of teachers.
Yeah, most people don't move around multiple schools.
Yeah.
But hey, so that scene was fantastic though, because Serena then starts to like prompt them, and eventually it's June who says something that isn't just part of the script. You know, she actually says, "Hey, do you remember this cafe place?" And it's this place where, you know, she would go and get drinks and cake or whatever, right?
Brunch.
And sorry,
brunch.
Brunch, sure, yeah, brunch. I'm not someone who's ever been for brunch.
I've been on occasion.
If I was, I didn't know it was brunch.
The only reason I remember is because one of the others was like, "I know, I went for brunch." Well, you went for food. It's fine. You know, you don't have to go. Oh, I can't go there. That's a brunch only place.
Yeah, I've never been concerned with naming my meals.
I'm like, is it food? Can I shove it in me?
Yeah, that's pretty much
That's good for me.
But they started talking about this place, and like one of the others was like, "Oh yeah, I have been there, and it was nice and that." And then, you know, Serena's like standing there staring at them. She knows this place, and she's after a couple of seconds of like just reacting to it.
She joins in.
She joins in and says, "Oh yeah, I've been in that place. Hey, maybe we were even there at the same time." And it's like this really like bittersweet thing where she's like, "They're not allowed to do that anymore. Hell, I'm not even allowed to go there anymore."
Yeah.
Like, it's all this stuff that's being lost, and it feels really awkward. And of course, the awkward part before this is she tries to talk to Offglen.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't know what her tongue's been cut out, and she like asks her like the question like 3 times, and then realizes why she can't speak, and everyone's just got to sit. I think that's when June jumps in with the cafe.
Yeah.
Talk, but
just to fill the silence.
But it's a really good scene, and and I don't know if June was intending it like this, because oftentimes June will subtly get jabs in at Serena when she can, but it does kind of feel like almost like an unintentional jab of like, hey, this is the way things used to be. Like, we all cared about these things. We are reminiscing of times before this, because we don't want to reminisce about anything that's happened since the worlds came like this. None of that stuff's happy. We're going to talk about stuff from before, because that's when life was reasonable.
Yeah, maybe good. If not good, it was better.
It was better. It was certainly better.
That is undeniable.
So
I mean, except for the rare few, because we have had some of them who think this world is better because they were in bad places before.
Oh, it was Offglen 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. So we've had a few that are like, no, this is better.
But even she eventually saw the horrors of this world, which led to the tongue being cut out. So, it's a big thing, and obviously, I think everything with Serena's guilt that might be there, even if she's not wanting to admit, it's almost the sunk cost fallacy, where, I mean, obviously at this point she doesn't really have much of a choice, but it's that kind of thing where once you've committed to an argument, even once you realise you're in the wrong,
you've put so much into it that you feel like you should just stick it out. Yeah,
you just keep going with it anyway. And it feels like an extreme version of that, where she can't admit that she's guilty or she has regrets because she's made the world the way it is, and she has to just live in it now. She doesn't have a choice of going back. And I think her one day accepting that she doesn't have that choice, or that she wants to but can't, it'll be a big character beat for her. I don't think she's ever going to be a heroic character or a character that we root for in that
more
sense.
Sympathetic.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the very least she's layered enough that I hate her guts, don't get me wrong, but she's a fully fledged person that I hate, not just like a villain.
She's not a caricature. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it, because as much as we're talking about, she has this guilt every so often, like this episode.
Yeah.
When she finally realizes the guilt of creating this world is going to be fantastic.
Yes.
Like her, because we see how much she tries to make amends in this episode when she feels guilty over something relatively small, right?
Yeah.
So when she feels guilty for something that huge, what does she try and do?
Does she do something big that helps?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Is it one like big thing? It's like, okay, I can't live with this. I need to do something good. You know, I don't know what that would be. Like, I
have no idea.
This is probably another season or two down the line.
I don't think it's anytime soon.
But no, and I think it's I think it's a very interesting examination of someone being indoctrinated by something like the alt-right and coming to believe their things, but not fully understanding what it's actually going to lead to and the dangers of that. Because I think going back to that flashback we were saying with all the dark irony, I think at one point it says we only want to like talk about our ideas. We're not actually, that's all we're doing. Well, yeah, that's what you're doing right now, but I mean, we've seen how it ends up. Like we know where it goes. So that's a big thing. Of course, the other plot that leads to the final scene of this episode is the fact that we're building a new Handmaid Centre, a new fancy Handmaid Centre, and Lydia is all proud. It's a miracle, praise be, building my new centre, it's all my building. We can process lots of girls now. And of course the higher ups, including Price, like, Fred, are we going to be ready? Got to be ready. We're bringing all the all the commanders and higher ups from around to come and see this place. So they'll be ready. And sure enough, they've got everyone there. And we should mention the little scene with Nick. Actually, Nick comes up to Price and asks to be moved.
Yeah, and because obviously, Fred last week was like, "Hey, let's get rid of Nick." Not in that words, but he wanted him gone, and I was just like, "No, we'll keep him around." And he's a loyal man. You want him there.
Yeah, because of course, all the way back to his introduction episode, Nick's thing was, you're there to spy on the commander as much as you are anyone else. Like, you're spying on everyone, and he even says, "Hey, there's stuff I've not told you about, Fred. Like, we're going to have to,
I am intrigued as to what exactly he has on him.
Yeah, I'm curious.
And more importantly, why he hasn't shared it already.
I mean, at the very least, we know he knows about the Jezebels because he drove to the Jezebels' place.
Yeah, but this is the thing: is I don't think that gets him in that much trouble. I think
because all the other commanders are all doing the same thing.
Right, I think it's how I was saying, the wives know that the handmaids talk amongst themselves, and they kind of just allow it. I think it's the same with the Jezebels for the commanders. It's like it's allowed because it's like all right, it keeps them
not
in
by
line,
the wives, by the organization.
Yeah,
just to make that clear. It's not like Serena Joy's okay with him going off to the Jezebels.
No, of course not. But the rest of the organization, they're like, okay, fine, you let them do that, and it keeps them in line, right? It's a small thing. So I don't think that does much if telling them that. So it's got to be something else.
Yeah, no. If he really has something, is this Nick making a play of some kind? I don't know.
It could be, yeah.
But the big thing here, though, is all the handmaids are like outside the building there because it's a big glass, window sort of walls, right? And they're all around the outside, and Off Glen 2.0 steps out of the line and starts walking behind them and around to the door. And I don't know if it's well choreographed here or whatever, or well telegraphed, or if my mind just jumped to it. But as soon as she took a step backwards, I knew what she was going to do.
Yeah, same.
Because there was like the obvious thing, and I think the episode did a really neat thing of reminding you in that brunch scene with Serena Joy of what's happened to her, so that when we get to this scene at the end, she has a vendetta here. She's got a reason to want to do this. Yeah. And she goes in, she holds out her trigger, and she runs forward into all the commanders.
I love that before she turns, she shows it to the handmaids first.
So they can all run.
You know what I'm doing, get out of here, essentially.
Which actually makes for some of the beautiful shots of this, because you see all the handmaids all running from the building, and all the red capes essentially all flowing as they're...
Yeah. It's this high up shot, quite far back.
Yeah, because obviously it's in slow motion, of course, so you get all this red just... going, and it's very symbolic, this idea, because obviously you'd think the bomb is what causes the red. It draws blood, and I guess in that sense it kind of is. It's here's almost the foreshadowing of blood, or even the explosion itself with all the red expanding out. So really neat. So I mean, I'm pretty sure Waterford survived at the very least, but
it'll be interesting to see what the ramifications of this are, though. What actually happens? What's the fallout?
Yeah, do they interrogate the handmaids who were there? I assume they'll try and find out where she got the device.
That's it. Do we learn where they are? Because this is a big step up for the resistance. Like we smuggled the odd handmaid out, a bit of a message here, a bit of food there.
Yeah, has there ever been an attack like this from the resistance? With the exception, because I remember hearing they were still fighting in Florida, like there was actually combat there, but
yeah, but how are they getting the bomb in and concealed? That's a tricky question for them to ask.
Yeah, so big ramifications, I'd imagine. What they are, I do not know, but it's interesting the idea that this conflict's going to ramp up, and the idea that we have this opposing force trying to take Gilead back in some way.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. It's definitely a turning point for the season. It feels like.
Yeah. You do feel like it's going to drive a lot of the rest of the plot, probably.
Yeah, and this is what about halfway.
Yeah, 6 out of 13.
Yeah. So. It makes sense to if we're going to pivot. This is where and explore this for the back half.
Yeah, we'll have explosions going off while we're giving birth. You get both sides of the drama at the same time.
Exactly. Why not?
No, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. I think it's fascinating. And like I say, I think Eden's been a really interesting addition to the cast.
Yeah, one of the scenes that we didn't talk about was where she drops the thing in the room. I can't remember what it was.
The knitting needle.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
And she goes to pick it up, and Susan's like, no. Handmaid will do it. That's what she's there for.
Yeah, you're a married woman. Handmaid will get it.
And I like, that's not what the handmaid's there for. She's not a housekeeper.
No, not at all.
She's there to have the kids.
No, this is just an awful power play. This is just feel like shit because I can boss you around. That's
what
her
impressing upon Eden. It's like, okay, let's teach her the ways of this, and not the official way. These aren't the official rules of this is what people do, but this is in the households. This is what you can expect.
And interesting little June, like, because she picks it up and then she's like, "Hey, now you try." Like, she tells Eden to drop it as well, so that June will have to pick it up. And instead of picking it up, June says, "Oh, I've got a cramp."
Yeah, we wouldn't want to make it worse for the baby.
Yeah, I'll go sit down.
You just have a bit of a stare off between her and Serena.
Yeah, it's basically this sort of return power play. It's like, yeah, you can't say shit to
don't
that.
forget, I can pull this out at any time for the next 5 months.
Did you just mean that literally?
I didn't, no.
That's a visual in my head.
I mean, sure.
Plop.
I mean, that would be one thing for the show to do.
I mean, who knows? But that's Handmaid's Tale, episode 6, eventful episode. So let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailedfuzztv. You can do that over there. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?